About 6,000 years ago, there was a man named Noah. Noah lived with his wife, 3 sons, and their wives. He was an honest and an upright man who followed the Lord in all he did. One day, the Lord looked down on the earth that he had created and saw the evilness and wickedness in the hearts of man. It made him sad to see his creation living in such a way, so he decided he would flood the earth and start anew. The Lord saw Noah and knew that he was a man that trusted him and his word. The Lord gave Noah instructions to build an ark, gather animals of every kind, and take he and his family onto the ark so that they would not perish in the flood. Noah, trusting the Lord's words to be true, did as he was told and tried to tell others of the coming fate. No one listened. The day came. The rains began to fall. For 40 days and 40 nights the earth was flooded, and it took almost a year for the waters to abate. After the year, Noah and his family were able to step out on dry land again, and the Lord made a covenant with Noah. By placing his rainbow in the sky, he said this was a sign that he would never again flood the earth with water. I have here an example of what some people believe the ark looked like with a few animals. Today I'm going to be talking about a global flood. The reason I was initially interested in this topic was because I wanted to see if the story was true. As you read it, if you read it in the Bible, you hear the story, but you have to wonder if this story is actually true. There must be some evidences still left on earth that can point us to the truth, whether there was a global flood or not. Throughout the next few moments, we will look at evidences such as fossilized sea creatures above sea level, rapid burial of plants and animals, and transported sediments across continents that all support the idea of a global flood. To begin, evidence for a global flood is supported by the findings of sea creatures which have been fossilized high above sea level. Across the Grand Canyon, there are tons of fossilized creatures found in these areas. Based off of R.L. Hopkins and K.L. Thompson's research, Dr. Andrew Snelling states, this includes the Kaibab limestone at the top of the strata sequence and exposed at the rim of the Grand Canyon, which today is 7,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level. Since sea creatures must be in water to survive, what are they doing so far above sea level? Evolutionists say that this is evidence that there once was an ocean covering this area of North America. However, we will examine why this is not true in further points. For now, evolutionists, creationists, and geologists agree that in some way and somehow, these animals and creatures were moved to this area in mass quantities via water. A second piece of evidence for a global flood is the rapid burial of plants and animals seen throughout nature. Evolutionists say that the animals were buried over the course of millions and millions of years and in different rock layers. However, these animals were not buried in separate layers as they suppose. Dr. Andrew Snelling states in his book Answers, 2009, that alligators, fish, birds, turtles, mammals, crustaceans, many varieties of insects, and palm leaves were all buried together in the vast Green River Formation of Wyoming. If the animals were in separate layers that had crustaceans at the bottom and mammals at the top, this would support the evolutionary belief of them being buried at separate times. However, this is not what we find. This is a problem for evolutionists because there was no evidence of an ocean covering this area 150 years to 200 million years ago when mammals and birds supposedly first evolved. And the animals are all in the same rock layer. The animals had to be buried together at the same time. They had to be deposited by an outside force of water in order to be buried in such a way. The way these animals are fossilized also points to a flood. If they had died and slowly been buried over the course of many years, they would have rotted and decayed before completely fossilizing. However, if they had been buried with water, the waters would have buried the animals and plants rapidly, allowing them to be perfectly fossilized, as we do see in these areas. A final piece of evidence for a global flood is that sediments were transported in long distances across continents. Based off J.M. Rell's research in dating of zircones, Dr. Andrew Snelling states, sand grains in Navajo sandstone came from the Appalachians of Pennsylvania and New York, and from former mountains further north on Canada. The sand grains were transported 1,250 miles right across North America. They go on to say, no known sediment transportation, even today, is capable of carrying sand right across North America during the required millions of years. It must have been water over an area even bigger than the continent. This supports our hypothesis for a global flood. If the whole Earth was covered by water, it could easily transport sediments from New York and Pennsylvania across the continent. As you can see, scientific evidence supports a global flood. We have learned that fossilized sea creatures found above sea level, the rapid burial of animals and plants simultaneously, and sedimentary transportation along vast distances all point to a global flood. Without looking at the Bible for evidence, we have shown that science supports the idea of a global flood. The Bible records this event as history, and it is proven true by modern science. This leaves the question, what else does the Bible say that is true?